So now let's move on to our next session on the theme of Japanese traditions times technology, food culture, and industry know-how that we should pass on and create for the future. Let's welcome our panelists onto the stage. Mr. Yuichiro Murai, Biak, Gojiya-san Zaimon, President, 29 head of the family.
なんかリングインするみたいな感じで面白いな。面白いな。
Ms. Ayame Osanai, Fermectis co-owner. Ms. Ai Kawahara, Orize, Director of the R&D Division.
はいはい。
And the session is moderated by Mr. Hirotaka Tanaka, Unlock CEO, SKS Japan founder.
こんにちは。すごいね。あ、もうこっちか。すみません、間違えました。
Sorry, I took a wrong position. So from this point onward, I will hand it over to you. Hello, everyone. Hello. Now, finally, we are starting this session at SushiTech. I couldn't have imagined any day coming like today that we'll be able to discuss about the Japanese technology times technology. In this session, there are lots of potential technologies, techniques, and food cultures relating to food industries, how we should pass on those to the future, and in what kind of way and what sort of a future we would like to create with those efforts. That's what we have been wanting to discuss in this session. And Murai-san is 29th head of a family. That is actually the family being succeeded from Muromachi era. And in my case, it's only my single generation, as far as I know. But Murai-san and also Osanai-san, Fermectis, and Kawahara-san from Orize, with these panelists, would like to have exciting session of discussion. By the way, are there any people working in food industries? Please raise your hand. I see about 30% of people raise their hands. And that's quite an interesting point regarding food. Food tech, I have been working in food tech space for a long time. And regarding food topics, I think various industries are coming together. And there, the traditional workers in the industries are having some fusions in their activities and would like to also connect the past, the present, and the future in the discussion. So we'd like to start with some self-introduction. Kawahara-san, could you start? Thank you very much. I am Kawahara from Orize, Inc. Our company, Orize, was founded in 2018. And as the name shows, we use koji. And however, that's not in the traditional way of using it, but we would like to make sweeteners and other types of food. And when I was a student, I was researching the microbes from fermented foods. And then I worked freelance in fermentation, veganism, and health. And last year, I had a contact with Orize, and I joined Orize, and I'm in charge of R&D. There are two major challenges that Orize face with currently. First of all, the rice consumption per capita in Japan has been declining. And after the COVID-19 pandemic, people are increasingly conscious about good health. As a result, sugar intake has been reducing, whereas sweeteners, on behalf of sugar, that consumption has been increasing. Therefore, fermentation times our technology, we developed this Orize sweetener. making use of the fermentation technologies. And this Orize sweetener, it is not distributed as is to the consumers, but making use of Orize sweeteners, we also develop various finished food, and those finished food are what we sell as a company to the consumers. Thank you very much. Have you ever tried Orize's products? Yes, I see many people raise their hands in their front lines seats. So it is a sweetener actually demonstrating our outlook for the future. Next, Osanai-san, please go ahead. Thank you. I am Osanai from Fermex. So I'd like to introduce myself and my company. Fermectes is actually to produce new proteins that have never been established before and create a sustainable food culture. That's our mission. And we are creating the world's first new protein ingredients, making use of the natto bacteria. And this is the protein powder making use of natto bacteria. The proteins that so far humankind consumed are animal proteins and the plant-based proteins. However, because of the population issues and also environmental burdens, now much attentions are given to the fermentable proteins. And with that, we believe that we'll be able to make a contribution possibly to the society. So the natto soybeans are actually boiled and then fermented, and then furthermore we process them into a powder form so that we'll be able to take it as a protein source. And you can mix it to the noodles or breads, and you'll be able to enjoy delicious food. Why natto bacteria? Because on a global scale, there is a protein crisis, and we'd like to provide a solution. And natto protein is actually the fastest, the easiest way of producing proteins. And because just in 15 minutes, the natto protein can double in volume. And there is no other protein sources available with such high efficiency of production or fermentation. And also, we don't have to use big land. It's environmentally friendly, and upcycling is available, and that can be available as a good food, high protein food materials. And I believe that all the people in the world will be able to enjoy the food using natto bacteria. What I think Fermectes business is quite interesting is this is like a buying of Doraemon, because it doubles only in 15 times. And Osanai-san, you look also quite skewed because you are also engaged in what, please? I started my career as a cook. And as I cooked various food, I wanted to enjoy rich food. And so I decided to research the food history in Japan, or food culture, and I thought that new food materials are in need, and in what way those new products can be implemented in our cuisine culture. So currently in the food culture areas, there is an important fusion of the liberal art, the sociological and the cultural studies aspect plus the technologies. So I think they are quite characteristic. And now I think I'd like to ask Murai-san to give us introduction. Thank you very much. Are you familiar with tane koji, seed koji? This is it. This is seed koji, what we call it tane koji in Japanese. In miso and sake, this is actually the raw materials used. And this tane koji is converted into koji, and miso, soy sauce, sake, and all other products are actually prepared. And this is a Japanese technology. And koji mold is microorganisms. And actually 600 years ago, as a first, world first, the biotechnology product. It's being identified and sold. And from the Ashikaga, the feudal lord back then in 16th century, we do have received this license, and it's still maintained in a family. And the company size is about 30 people as employees, and we are located in Osanai, Aichi Prefecture. And koji molds, there are a wide variety of types, yellow, black, and white for miso, shochu, and soy sauce. And actually, there are about 3,000 strains that we actually keep in a family or company. And and to 3,000 breweries, we provide our koji. So I think if you spend even just a single day in Japan, I think that if you eat something in Japan, then almost always our koji is used in that food. And we have been exporting our product to for about 40 countries. And in startups, gastronomy is in wide variety of space. It's been attracting attention. And so we'd like to expand this by globalizing our koji technology and products, and we have been also working with the cooks and other industries, and we also have those cook menus published as a book. And in 2 weeks in Barcelona, there will be a koji, the kitchen event is held, and I am also going there to make a presentation. Thank you. The event that you introduced, is it sponsored by Biok, the Kojiza Kitchen event? Yes, Biok and also Kojiya Sanzaimon are the sponsors. And we would like to make use of Koji technology. We do have Tane Koji technology, but working with various people of liberal art specialists or some other businesses or academias would like to develop more new products. Thank you very much. So with these three people, panelists, would like to have a discussion here. And next, I would like to make my presentation so that I'd like to clarify what are the topics that we would like to focus today. First, self-introduction. We are Unlock's company. That is, the mission is unlock the potential of food through technology and collective wisdom to create a prosperous world for future generations. And we are looking ahead 100 years from now. High-tech technology used to be my specialty area, and in 2016, food times technology, that's the potential I felt. And since then, I have been working in food area.
And as I said, there is this environment that we want to create where many people from different industries will come and join the food industry, and we have been holding conferences and events, and there is the support that we provide to businesses, and also co-create is the theme, and so we have this conference called SKS, and this is a huge conference actually, and more than 100 speakers over 3 days. They talk over 40 different topics, and so this is like a machine gun conference. And what's interesting is that I think that there are participants today who participated in SKS, and we seriously think about the creation of future for the food, and we are working to build this ecosystem. And also Suzuki-san from Ministry of Agriculture joined as well. We have exhibits and as well to build the momentum, and I hope that you would join us. And more recently, I think that this is related to the theme this time around, and that is that there's more and more collaboration with people from different regions. And in May, in Hokkaido, there was the Food Innovation Summit that is going to be taking place. And so if you're interested, please come to join us in Hokkaido if you feel excited after hearing the talk session today. So this is the food innovation map that we have created. This is available in both English and Japanese. And so while looking at this entire map, we have discussions traditions, and we also have books that we have published as well around food tech and changing the food industry for the future. And today I'd like for us to talk about this as one of the topics as well. So let's skip some slides. And here, before we start our discussion, I'd like for us to think about the possibility of Japan and globalization. And then after that, we can go on to the panel discussion. I think that there's a lot of possibilities that we can think of in terms of future for Japan. And I think that this has to do with number 2, that is tech and talents in Japanese companies and research institutions. And also, I think that the techniques and technology that Japanese companies have about fermentation, and also the culture of consuming seaweed. And I think that we have varieties of food cultures in different parts of Japan. And with that, I think that another theme is globalization. Now, export of products from Japan. And while there is export, there is also inbound people coming into Japan. And so why not utilize this as an opportunity for globalization? And also, there is the so-called innovation-driven model, and that is utilizing Japanese technology so that we can export new food products and processed foods. And we can also potentially export solution that technology has to offer by Japanese startups. And in Australia, there is the initiative called Beans is How. I wonder if you are aware of them, and that is about alternative substitutes of protein. That's fine, but then the idea here is why not consume beans? And when I heard this, I thought that this could be promoted here in Japan, but it's actually the reverse is true, that this is more popular outside of Japan and not so much in Japan. And so today, I'd like for us to think about the strength that Japan has to offer. And with our forte and strength, what sort of future do we want to create for ourselves? And looking at our neighbor in South Korea, they actually have evolutionized their food culture. They call it K-food. So like them, what can we do? What are the opportunities and what are the challenges? And what sort of future do we want to create? So that's the kind of discussion that I'd like for us to have today. So with that, what I'd like for us to discuss today is about possibility of Japan. So we have food culture, food technology, and techniques. We have so many. And so to the three of you, what do you think are the strengths of Japan? And what is the possibility? What would you like to pass down to the future? So let's start with Osanai-san, please. So how Japan can propagate or disseminate Japan's strength? We're not a very big country. And so rather than producing volumes of food, I think that we can focus more on quality. Now, I have been working and studying history of food culture, and I think that this is the biggest strength, and that is that what we need to consume as a staple, I think that we have technique and technology to make it more innovative. For example, we want to eat because there's going to be shortage of rice, for example. And so then there is bread that we can create, but we can create that more innovative and make it more innovative. For example, making a croquette, a sandwich, or a yakisoba sandwich. You may think that this is strange to combine carbs and carbs. However, we have been able to really make these breads and sandwiches popular. And the government actually initiated this move. And the private sector also was influenced by that. And so I think that we have the strength of fusing together different technologies and techniques and materials. And so I think that what we have to offer is that technology. Okay? That makes sense. So now that we think about it, yes, we may see some things as a given, and you might not think about it, but yes, you're right. I think that we have this motivation to modify things, yes. And when we think about, we have different soups, right? So we use our spoon, but then we use not only spoons, but we use forks and knives, and we have different chopsticks as well. So we have different utensils that we use. Okay, so through food, if we see the world, it gets us excited, and I feel excited and energized as well. Okay, so let's move on to Kawahara-san. Yes, I agree with what was just mentioned. And I think that Japanese, we are very particular about food. We love food. And so I don't think it's about volume. I think that we are more particular about the taste and the flavor. And so we want to pursue quality. So technology and technique to maintain high quality food is something that we want to continue with. And also, if we add innovation on top of that, I think that we can see further expansion globally. I think that we can get a clue out of that. Yes, the international startups as well. As a market, I think the U.S. is the biggest market, and second comes Europe. But the U.S. is a dream country, according to some people. I think that that is said by international people. So if you get food right in Japan, then you'll succeed anywhere else. And so Orise Kawahara-san, for her to say that, I think that we can all be convinced. And I am certainly convinced myself. At the time of product development, of course, we need to consider the costs involved and everything, but what we need to first think about is taste. This is a common understanding that we have within the company. We need to make sure that there is good quality, good taste, and then with that, we think about how we can make it exciting. I think that there's more and more tasty startups that we're starting these days. Yes, so when it comes to strength of our food culture here in Japan, I think it's true what they mentioned, but I think that we are very strong in food processing. So we have a lot of nature, we have a lot of foodstuffs to work with, but then we have good technology to process. So I think I mentioned that there's about 3,000 companies that we supply to who make soy sauce and miso and also fish cakes. And so I think that there is a lot of technology around processing of foods. And 70 trillion, I think, is the food market. And 40 trillion is the secondary food market. So I think manufacturing and processing is the strength of Japan, I would say. And I think a lot of that is supported by small and medium companies. There aren't many major companies. And we often say food tech or technology, but then I think it's more food techniques. And I think that there's a lot of very strong techniques scattered across Japan. When we think food tech, the food tech that we refer to today, I think, is food tech 2.0. That's what I thought 7 years ago. That is to say that, but then at the time, I didn't think that it was 2.0. I think it was more 2.5.0 because technology and technique that's related to Japanese food. I think that there's actually a lot of technologies that have been passed down from generation to generation, and that is what has created the world that we live in today. And so we have talked about how particular we are in terms of taste, and we have strength in modifying food products. So listening to these panelists, I think that the audience may have different ideas, which is fine. So I hope that you would have a discussion with your neighbors or with the people around you. I think that it would be good if we can take that opportunity for us to think and discuss on this topic.
The next potential, well, I believe that there is a potential, definitely. And in Sankei newspaper, there was a survey conducted. What are the knowledge and expertise that Japan can be proud of? And food was actually number 2, most frequently answered item. And however, I think there are lots of challenges and issues that we need to tackle with in Japan. So concerning the food industries in Japan, what are the challenges? I'd like to ask each panelist. Murai-san, please. What I have been feeling is that because we are a food manufacturer, well, I think the human talents is one point. In agricultural farming, will you be able to see, for instance, the face of who are actually making some vegetables, but if it is a processed food, then who are processing those, who are bottling soy sauce, or who are actually processing some specific cooked food. I think you may not be able to actually see those who are engaged in processing or manufacturing. So there is actually a big distance between the consumers and the manufacturer or processor in the case of food. That's different from agricultural farming. And in a supermarket or convenience stores, I think all those processors and manufacturers are just a part of the infrastructure, and they just take it for granted, and they are not visible from the general consumers. And well, actually, with a researcher, I had a discussion regarding the infrastructure. Infrastructure is invisible. And because it's invisible, even if it's not working well, we may not be able to notice that. So I think visualization of infrastructure is necessary. That's what the researcher of liberal art mentioned. So I think that the infrastructure needs to be visualized. So I think actually what I heard from that researcher matches the points that you made. So what is the infrastructure that we have? And on that foundation, we have our current food culture. So that has to be probably revisited. And then technology develops on that infrastructure. Now, Osanai-san, how about you? What is the challenge of food culture or industry? Well, not just limited to food industry, but probably to any industries. Self-sufficiency rate is a big issue. For instance, soybeans, a lot of them are imported, or dairies or animal feeds. I think what kind of solution we'll be able to take, I wonder. And there are some specialty food or specific food cultures, but gradually vegetables or fish that we eat in going to the local areas, we'll be able to enjoy very rich culture there. But also, staying in Japan, for instance, in Tokyo, you'll be able to also enjoy Hawaiian cuisine or European cuisine. On a global basis, you may feel that food culture has been diversified and all those diverse cuisines are available. But at the same time, I may consider that this is a reflection of deterioration of the food culture, because, for instance, we don't see who are preparing those food, who are manufacturing those food ingredients, and as a result, the local industries are losing their energy powers, and as a result, self-sufficiency has been declining. So, surrounding you in your generation, Osanai-san, in their 20s, you have been making efforts to find a solution. Is it something that you discuss with the people surrounding you? No, actually, it's not. I actually have this sense of issues. These are the issues. And you mentioned the K-food. And for instance, my generation, people say Korean food is very delicious. Therefore, they are solicited to visit Korea to enjoy food. But I think food is something probably too close for us in our daily life. As a result, people do not notice something wrong or something issues there embedded. And this is something I think quite peculiar to food issues. If someone talks about that, then we will realize. So please talk about what you heard in this session to maybe 10 people surrounding you. Then I think those people will be able to realize what are the challenges, issues. And so next, Kawahara-san, how about you? Well, relating to those points mentioned, it's also mentioned that we are particular about the taste, flavor, or quality. As a result, the production efficiency is not prioritized because they are so particular about taste, flavor, or quality. So even if it costs it needs lots of volume, or it needs lots of volume or time, then they wouldn't consider about the product efficiency. I had a talk with a person who has agricultural solutions, but bringing those solution idea to the farmers say that even introducing that technology or know-how, if we cannot produce delicious food, it's no longer useful. That's a reply. But in order to increase self-sufficiency rate, we also need to enhance our technology. So there is a kind of awareness gap here. I think that's also the challenges we have in Japan. I see. I think your comment is that a long time ago, when we considered social issues, the social challenges, well, talking about the topics that we are currently handling in this session today, you may, I think, be inclined to start with some grand topics. But culturalpreneurs, entrepreneurs spirit, that's one approach. But also social culture business, all of them are quite important. Therefore, all these three should be fused, like social cultural startups will be needed, and they should be financed well. So also I have an opportunity to talk with fund people, and a kind of a patient capital, camel type, cumulative, long-lasting investment financing should be available. You may know well about a business model to scale up in a short span of time. However, I think in some cases we require longer time to approach and scale up. So you commented infrastructure or self-sufficiency rate, and also the healthy longevity, global warming. There are lots of issues, and also the depopulations in local areas, and so on and so forth. And then, in order to find a solution, what are the actions to be taken, or what kind of a food culture or food industry you'd like to create in your daily operations activities? If you look at 30 years ahead, what kind of future you'd like to create? I think that is a very important vision. So this kind of future we'd like to create, that's really needed for the entrepreneurs and also for businesses. Of course, how to earn income, that's the must. That's the first step. However, going beyond that, we would like to consider together here what should be a future vision. So talking about future, we'd like to also discuss more. So who should start on this topic? Please. May I? Yes, please. Well, it is quite difficult. But when we talk about food tech, in 30 years to come, definitely global warming and environmental issues are the problems. That will be the problems on a continued basis. However, at the same time, we would like to enjoy food meals, including the meats or any other ingredients at reasonable prices. And there could be new technologies available, processing those ingredients in a different way that we do today. But also dairy industries or agricultures, all those have to be protected. And rice price needs to be maintained at low, reasonable price. And then instead of animal proteins or instead of the small fish proteins, I think we need something else. And then soybeans. They are used for soy sauces and as a traditional food. But we rely heavily on import for soybean supply. And are we going to continue to rely on the overseas sourced soybeans going forward? What do you think?
Yes, there are many who use imported soy sauce, but when we think about self-sustainability in Japan, I think, is better, but it needs to make sense economically. I think that this is a grand theme, but 30 years from now, while utilizing tech, we still want to protect the agriculture, the farmers, right? And so I think that this is going to be dependent on the import situation. That's why I asked. Sorry, I'm the only one speaking. Right, of course, we want affordable foods. And another thing that I've been thinking about is we want to enjoy our food guilt-free. For example, if we eat meat, we think about how much water we're wasting or using. And that is the sort of marketing that makes us feel guilty in consuming meat, for example. But if we can just simply enjoy food in the future, that probably will be something that I would like to realize. So recently what I've been thinking is that when speaking with some researchers, from the time we started putting price tags on foods, that's when things started to go wrong, because it becomes a means of making money. And I think that this is what is happening in the U.S. Those people who are handling foods, they want to maximize their sales, and so they want to increase the unit price, and so they would make the portion bigger, and that would create obesity. And also at the same time, there's going to be food loss as well. But then the economic value will continue to expand. But in the background, there's a lot of inconveniences, and as a result, we're saying we still want to pursue sustainability, which makes no sense. And so the word food tech is one thing. Small, medium companies, the major companies, and the governments within their respective areas, for them to pursue business, there's a limitation as to how much you can do or what you can do. And so, as Aosana-san mentioned, we need to be careful about the language that we use with the people in the industry. So when we say food industry, in Japanese, that's translated as food stuff or food product industry, which has a slightly different nuance. And so we need to be careful with the words. And in Japan, we tend to build silos or walls. And so we need to continue to have the discussion on the language that we use as well. So it may not make sense right now when I say this, but when we continue to repeatedly have the same discussion, all of a sudden it starts to make sense. That happens to me quite often. For the first 40 minutes, I'm lost, but then from 45 minutes time point, all the dots start to be connected. And so you're given only a limited amount of time for you to give a pitch or for you to make a presentation. There's only so much that we can cover in that limited time, right? But I think it's important that we take the time and opportunity to even take 45 minutes today to have a very thorough discussion. How often do we have such intensive discussions, right? So we are trying to understand the future that we want to create. So Murai-san, what sort of a future are you seeing right now? Have you fermented your future? The ideal future that I envisioned, I used the word infrastructure before. But people who are engaged in food, rather than they're working because of responsibility, I think that they should do their work because they enjoy it. This is coming from your personal experience. So soy sauce, a bottle of soy sauce, 1.5 liters, was cheaper than a bottle of Evian. So soy sauce that takes so much longer to produce was cheaper than a bottle of water, right? So we need to think about the infrastructure that is needed to create our products. And I don't mean to hide behind this convenient word of responsibility. But to be honest, food industry, you don't make a lot of money. It's not lucrative. There is shortage of labor. It's difficult to entice manpower. And so that's a challenge that we're faced with. But thank you. I think that we have different future that we want to envision. But lastly, I'd like for us to take the last 5 minutes to talk about globalization. So the food industry, for it to continue, we need to make money. But what would be the approach in globalization? You can maybe talk about the strategy that you have, but how would you like to go global from your respective positions? Kawahara-san, would you like to start? Thank you very much. So I think what is common across the three of us is the word fermentation. At Orise from last year, we have been trying to go outside of Japan. And when people outside of Japan, when they hear fermentation, they think healthy or they think gut health. I think these are some of the keywords that they think of. And I think that this trend is stronger in the US. But it is not that we want to provide medicine, we want to provide food culture. And so what I'd like for us to do in the future is we want to export experience rather than export the physical goods. So this is exciting for us to be able to provide experience, and I think that it would be exciting on the receiving end to be able to experience. Oh, this is a very interesting topic that I'd like for us to deep dive, but we don't have much time, unfortunately, so let's have a discussion after. So sustainable food culture is what I'd like to make global. So, for example, the microorganisms and also traditional food stuff that we've been consuming over generations. And Japanese food, the Japanese food culture has less environmental load. And also, it contributes to longevity, and there's evidence to prove that. But we have the challenge of having access to proteins. And so the Natokin initiative that we have is a potential solution. And I think that this is an idea that came about because we are in Japan. Japanese cuisine is a sustainable food culture, and so that is something that I'd like to see propagate outside of Japan as well. Sustainable food culture, yes, I think now that you say it, it makes sense. So I think that what you said is very profound about sustainable food culture. So I like to take this back. I think that we can have a 3-hour-long conversation just on this topic. So Murai-san, you mentioned about Spain. I resonate with what Osanai-san mentioned, and sustainability. I think that we tend to focus on health or environment, but I think we can also think about sustainability of culture and who's responsible. It's people. And environmental sustainability, about CO2 reduction, that is about less intervention of people. But then when it comes to sustainable culture or food culture, there needs to be more intervention of people. In case of winery outside of Japan, what they want to pass down, they say is the vineyard or the grapevines. But then the Japanese breweries, they say techniques or the organization or the house or the home. So that is people. It's the people and the organizations that they want to hand down. And so sustainability, I think, is really about people and community. I think that is in the background of Japan, and this is something that I like to talk about in Spain as well. That's wonderful. I'm from a different industry, but in the home electronics industry, what we discussed was that technology is the asset, but then what is creating the asset is people. And that is what I realized as a person in my 30s. And so technology and people combined together led me to food industry. So we all have different backgrounds, but I think that it's interesting how we can collaborate. So it goes to show how food is accepting and welcoming of so many things. Now, lastly, I'd like to hear from each and every one of you if there is any take-home message to the audience.
お伝えいただければと思いますので。
Anyone can start, please. So starting with me, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, startups. There is still a long lead time to social implementation. That's the issues we see in Japan, but we would like to implement furthermore, and we would like to globalize our businesses. Therefore, if you are interested in us and you would like to cooperate with us as a partner or as a collaborator, please let us know. So if you're interested in Orise, I think there are also some overseas participants here. So Orise is a quite unique company. Please contact her, Kahara-san. And then Osanai-san, please. The proteins. Actually, I'd like to develop products of proteins which will be available as a stockpile in case of disasters. Because in case of disasters, people need to have protein sources. So that's something we'd like to do. And if you are interested in that, please also let us know. They would like to work together. In Nihonbashi, you have an office, right? And Kim-san's leading that team. And so you can see Osanai-san if you visit Nihonbashi. And yes, and many of us you'll be able to find. So please contact us. Then Murai-san, please. Well, I'm specialized in fermentation, and I do receive inquiries and contacts. And anyone working in food industries, in total, it's about 1 million people working in the industry. And I'd like to visualize all those people working in food industry. All those faces needs to be seen in the society. I think that's something I'd like to achieve as the company head of the fermentation company and also as an individual. Thank you very much. Now it's time to close the session, but I wish that going beyond any boundaries, not as a solo, but forming a team and working together, I think it's quite important for us to create the future industries, passing on those to the futures. And I think there are many people here sharing the same spirit. Therefore, if you think that you hear some interesting topics, discussions, then please talk about that to someone else. Then I think starting from this session, we'll be able to do something together. Thank you very much. Please give a big applause to all the three panelists. Thank you very much. It's great. So now we conclude the session. Thank you very much for a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much. Please raise and please send them off with a big applause.